Antonio Gutterres says his recent visit to the African Union Heads of State Summit in Ethiopia allowed stakeholders to establish a higher platform of cooperation between the two organizations. Guterres made the remarks on his return to New York, where he signed agreement that had been reached to fully align the AU's Agenda 63 with UN's 2030 agenda.
He says discussions range from the implementation of the peace deal in South Sudan to the situations in the DRC, Burundi and Mali, and pointed to recent examples as demonstrating what was possible.
What the Gambia episode has demonstrated is that when the neighbors of a country are together, when the sub-regional African organization is united, and the African Union is united, then it is possible for the Security Council to decide, it is possible for action to be taken, and it is possible for democracy, human rights, and the freedom of peoples to be defended. When there is division in the region, it is much more difficult for the UN to be able to act accordingly.
On South Sudan, he said President Salva Kiir had agreed to allow the UN mission greater freedom of movement in the country and for a regional protection force to be put in place, one that notably will now include Kenyan troops after recent tensions with the UN escalated when one of its commanders in South Sudan was fired for failing to respond to an attack on a Juba hotel in July last year.
Our narrative about Africa must not be based on the crises that exist in Africa. There are crises everywhere. We have crises in Europe, crises in the Middle East, crises in Asia. There are crises everywhere. What is important is also to understand the enormous potential that Africa represents. That Africa is the continent that has grown more economically in the last decade, that has remarkable success stories, and that we need to also take profit of the momentum created by these facts in order to make sure that Africa is able to win the battle for sustainable and inclusive development in the next few years, knowing that that is also the best way to prevent the conflicts that unfortunately have created so much suffering in the continent.
This was Guterres' first visit to the AU summit since becoming UN chief. Sherman Bryceby's SABC News, New York.